Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and we are on a Hermes Day, Mercury Day, Wednesday, and Venus hour, which is excellent to begin the topic. Midheaven just left Spica, so planet of fair trade, justice, eloquence, and the topic is very sensitive topic. We're just shifting the eclipse axis from the Venus-Mars to the Mercury-Jupiter. And what I'm going to talk about in this episode. So Jupiter is in the sign of Mercury, and I'm going to show how the Jupiter being in Mercury sign is preparing us for the shift of the eclipse axis. I'm going to talk about Jupiter ingress to Cancer. And I'm going to talk about what we are purging when Ketu is in tropical Libra, what we are purging when Ketu is in tropical Virgo. Okay? So basically we are in a situation where the ruler of the North Node is going to be Jupiter, but Jupiter is right now still in its detriment. We had that with Venus and Mars, where Venus was in Mars sign, and Mars right now is in the sign of the Moon, which is fallen, okay? And this is where we really get prepared to apply the God is in the little details. Jupiter in Gemini is taking all of our big ideas and start to work with them with hands-on experience, okay? And shift and correct and change both how we do things and our worldview at the same time. We pay attention as we actually apply for a theory or an idea. We pay attention to what needs to be corrected, and that can sometimes shift our view. Think about the difference between theoretical science and applied science. Jupiter Gemini is a lot about applied science or applied philosophy. And then we are preparing for Ketu to be ruled by Mercury and Rahu to be ruled by Jupiter. So that, first of all, it's ending a saga. It is ending the saga of Ketu in Venus sign with Lilith. It is ending the saga where we were balancing the Venusian using documents, image, and so on. We're still doing that, and there's still some documentation and some images that are going to pop up as evidence. And we were shifting towards just saying, I am. This is who I am. Okay? If I don't have to lie about who I am, then perhaps we wouldn't have run into all of this. Okay? If I'm not given right to be who I am, then we wouldn't have to run into all of this. And so we are shifting the view on justice. For example, think about the time I saw a lot of lawyer advices on how to win court cases with a narcissistic husband, okay? I know there are narcissistic women as well, but how to win court cases. And they worked very applied science. This is the evidence you need. This is what you proclaim. This is what the things you have in favor of you. And we are gaining that wisdom. We're doing that, and then we are purging that. And remember that the judge, the Supreme Court judge, has to rape children and on camera because he's also intelligence and so on and so forth. So we're purging for the old order of things. Okay, what we thought about court. Why is court dysfunctional? Oh, well, because if you and your husband, if you prove what abuse your husband did to you, you might discover that he was intelligent, and your judge is too. So that would ruin the set off the balance that we are setting for the world and how we do things, how we balance things in the world. Okay, just setting off that balance. That's why it was difficult for you to prove that to begin with. And now that which is invisible always manifests in some visible way, and we need to learn how to interpret it. Just when you learn how to interpret it correctly, you are bothering with MK Ultra. Okay? You're deprogramming. But as we are unveiling that, we become less politically correct. We purge the old order. First of all, we do have the pictures, we do have the documents, we do have the testimonials, and we do know how things work. So people can be allowed to be who they are more. If you understand that your narcissistic husband could have been an expendable child that was recruited into intelligence and displayed those behaviors and never learned how to make connections and so on. So when your giver is not something that's threatening your life right now, and he is no longer afraid that he will be exposed because everything is exposed, now everybody can be who they are. Now they can be grace, they can be forgiveness, but they can also be the I am, the assertion. And we are purging with the saga of really even the old bodies with the old courts or the UN that balance the world. We're just purging that and purging diplomacy as well. We're not diplomatic anymore. Okay? We are not diplomatic so much anymore, but that brings more authenticity and respect. Because Libra is the place where to put on respect, we make sure we wear a good, if you're a woman, a good bra, or a good tie, or a good this, or a good that. And then that image breeds respect, okay? That etiquette brings respect. Now we are purging for that, because let's say you didn't have the money to buy a bra that fits, okay? Then you would go without. And how would that have affected your image? And then you say, you know what? Instead of paying, I don't know, for some people it's the rent, for some it's the bills of the work or the cellular phone. It's like, hey, why is work not paying for that? Or for some people it's the money to go to work, okay? So instead of buying the bus ticket that you don't get fully back, then you say, I will buy a bra. Then, if it is because of what I am wearing, okay? Or yes, or let's say you're going to say, I'm going to get my teeth done. Okay, I'm going to get my teeth done. And you need to travel for it. The fairest price is cheaper to travel abroad than to do it inland for many countries. You say, okay, I'm taking a vacation to take care of my teeth, then I can maybe get a bigger salary because I'm more representative. And people don't think, I don't know, I'm a bad astrologer because my teeth are... And I heard this and I say, well, there's truth to that. Of course, if your teeth not good, it means it's something with Saturn. So you need to correct that, yes? But you can say, of course, I don't know. Some people say take a loan. Some people say crook somebody. So just like, do you have to commit offense in order to treat your teeth? And it's cheaper to do it abroad. Okay? We are really purging of the way Libra would do that. And we are starting to talk about what is behind the image, what is behind the camera. This is how all of our entertainment industry is exposed, but also our royal families and our politicians. Because what is behind the view? And Libra cannot fix it anymore by fixing the makeup or fixing the death, but it's also the time where we actually tended to that. We actually tried to fix this, to fix that. Because some things you can't fix by that, okay? Some things you can, I don't know, wear clothes you feel more cozy in, and then you feel better in your environment. Yes, those things are applying. And then the other things that you fixed your makeup, you done your teeth, you did that, but still there's something where you still have to be yourself. You still say, this is who I am. You said, this is who I am. Now, we're beginning to be done with that, and we're beginning to address the worldview. Because sometimes you can change for your clothes, for your makeup, for your housing, for your car. And many people did that. For your balance check, for how you run your finances. You do that. And then people would still not accept you because of your worldview, because of your religion, okay? And so if you say, this is who I am, you can accept me, not accept me, I still deserve a justice, dignity, resources, a place to live that is safe for me, where I can be myself, and so on and so forth. I still need all of these resources. So now we're coming to the bigger picture, okay? Now that we've moved all the blockages that we had for people pleasing, we need a place that reflects authentically who we are. And in Aries, we need to build that. We're going back to the consciousness. What is, if I'm authentic to myself, okay, what is now my worldview? What is now the bigger picture? And then Ketu will be in Virgo, which tropical Virgo, which means that the place where we could write a book about this or cover it in a journal, okay, or rely on the media, or get a new gadget, okay, get a new technology, or even drink a new herb, or grow a new herb for that, we are purging that. This is where I done my work, I changed my phrasing, I changed the story that I tell about this, I grew out some different herbs. By the way, the people with the landlord, they took out the rosemary. It was such a painful day when they took out the rosemary. I wasn't there, but I felt such heaviness that I wanted to really die. And then when I wake up, I was like, what? Who takes out the rosemary that protects your property, for heaven's sake? So, and they are from culture that they're supposed to know that. But okay, had they at least planted it somewhere, but whatever. And so this is where you can say, okay, I did my herbs, I did my meditation, I did my this, I did my that. Something bigger has to happen. Some bigger opportunity has to arise. The bigger picture. You need to see the bigger picture. And you think about when you go to the doctor. Okay, so you go to your ear doctor, then you go to your teeth doctor, then you go to the eye doctor, then you go to this doctor, to that doctor, and then you see a shaman on the street or a dreamer on the street, and you give them a penny, and they're like, I see that you need to have a love in your heart. And it feels a bit invasive, and you say, for what? Well, see in your eyes, but the shine is missing, your skin. Yes, not so glowing. Teeth get yellow. You need to have love in your life, okay? So, and you say, how the fuck do I do that? Well, you don't have a practice. Well, maybe you can set intention. Maybe you can have, okay, another thing. But this is exactly where the difference between the Virgo and Pisces at. Virgo, we try to fix, well, you need this crystal and not that crystal. Even if you do like rock, the rocks that we use, or you need that blend of oil, and they can correct things magnificently, okay? Or you need to plant this herb in this position and that, and change this about the house and that, and you look for the detail, that the goddess in the little details, and it changes a lot, and we will be tending to that. But then there's the bigger picture, and this is where we're both going to receive ancient wisdom about herbs, alchemy, ancient books, ancient scriptures, ancient sayings, okay, anything Virgoian. Some old herb that didn't grow anywhere starts growing somewhere, and then we take its medicine. But we are moving on to the bigger picture. If you think about the Virgo process, let's say you have Virgo, I don't know. Oh, think about the Virgo process, okay? You start arranging your office. And you change, you clean the things, you move the things, you remove all the dirt. We're going to do a lot of cleaning with Ketu, Virgo, but also those who find it difficult to clean, they will find out why. You remove everything, you change the things, you change that, and then it comes down to the point where you say to yourself, okay, now that everything is clear, I must change a job. Okay? And now if this is your relationships, you understand. But it can also be for my Virgo ascendants out there. It can also be, okay, for you, okay, again, I did my teeth, I did my nails, I did my this, I did my that, I went and learned a new skill and learned a new that, but not happy in my life. Why my life is not going the direction? Then you meet someone, you fall in love, and then that someone introduces you to direction you haven't thought about, where you can apply your skill in a different way. That was the missing link, okay? You tend to the kettle, you tend to what you need to tend to for what your comfort zone is, and then you gotta move forward in life. Okay? And for some people, you've been in the other way around, okay? If you're Pisces, you've been, which is funny because if you're Virgo ascendant, you're moving towards partnership, but if you're Pisces ascendant, which is 7th house from Virgo, you're moving more towards the self. But that can simply be you learned about partnership skills, and then you find out you're completely with the wrong man or completely with the wrong woman. Okay, then you move for yourself. But then you might meet persons more correct for you. Okay? So, because you allow yourself, okay, more to be yourself, or you have a different idea of who you are, because Jupiter is a lot about ideas, worldview. Or your faith changes, or something about your spiritual practices changes. Okay, remember when I was saying I will never do astrological magic, it's too complicated and too dangerous and too risky, and then I got to do astrological magic, and then I began to channel, and then that was setting off balance the people that were with me, okay, in my life, because they were growing more into the spirituality of, Orthodox religion, which, needless to say, okay? And I'm like, okay, I will put money on the plate, but it would be the Oranienkerk, where I have the symbols of 3 religions and the pride flag, and the priest is, or the pastor, I don't even know the difference, is, and this person is, also an astrologer. So there's people to speak with. And that would change things, and then I would learn about the Masons, okay? So that would completely change for my worldview as well, because there are all these things that I didn't know about the Enlightenment, like satanic ritual use, okay? So we are moving from balancing the Venusian, balancing our beauty, balancing our this, balancing our that. How do we see what is beautiful, what is this, what is that? And we and as well for the I am, asserting myself this way, fighting for this cause, defending this, defending that, bloodline, blood segregation, biodiversity, all these things, changing, shifting signs from changing the details, because we will be tending to the details, and Jupiter Gemini is preparing us for that. We are doing that right now in Jupiter Gemini. We're paying attention to the details, and Mercury is also language. And you think about how a worldview or traveling can change the way we experience language as well. Okay, think about what experience you had when you traveled, or with your upbringing. Okay, if it's like me, it's 4th house, and how that challenges or facilitates language acquisition, and how your emotional ability to relate or to feel happy can change for the other way around. Okay, but Jupiter Gemini can also mean yes, we learn about language acquisition and the bigger picture around that. The connection between religion and language, religion and trade. Unfortunately, we learned that too. Or fortunately, because we also change for our worldview, and we see, okay, we can maybe reconnect for some of us, maybe not, which is okay. From a place where we change and shift how we practice something. I very likely would not talk a lot with you about Beta Perseral goal if everyone around me would be just sacrificing children and torturing them for Beta Perseus, which is what they used to do. Okay? to try to appease her. But I was privileged in learning that about Algol from astrological magicians who gave me teachings that could appoint me to the more correct view of Algol. And I'm like, well, Algol is the antidote to everything in here. It's like that's everything in here. How? Because she's the one they slaughtered the children for. She and the Baal. I'm like, no, but she's been through that. Like she's psychically protective from that. Okay. And this is where the Jupiter Gemini can allow us to see the God in the little details, but also how the little details of how we worship our God can change for the view of our God. And for some people, they can grow a renewed sense of interest in religion. Some people can lose it altogether. Okay, you can become atheistic or you can become believer. And this is preparation for Ketu Virgo, which is the skeptic, to Rahu Pisces, which is basically, if Jupiter is well aspected, is kind of becoming a believer, having a sense of faith in life, a growth, expansion, finding your way about having access to choice. And I noticed I'm more Venusian, that when I love myself, I respect myself, I assert my boundaries, I use my Mars correctly, I basically, what I do without thinking about this is I make better choices for myself. But if somebody would tell me, improve your choices upon yourself, I don't know how to do that. But if I love myself more, then I have more access to variety of choices. If I assert a boundary, so much so it allows me energetic leverage to invite something in, invite opportunity, Jupiter in, and take advantage, take action, Mars on it. Well, for some people, they're more Saturnian and Jupiterian. Okay, so they said there's always choice. I'm going to meditate on that. I'm going to look for the choice. And they're sages. I don't have any bad words to say about that. It's just that I would go about it in a different way to the Venusian. So, while we are being prepared to either lose our religion or have renewed sense of faith, we understand that some new worldview, for some people even new child, or even in traditions where Jupiter signifies spouse, which is like teacher, so new teacher, new guru, new philosophy, new philosophers. If you are the philosopher, your philosophy is going to change. We are being prepared for it now. And remember, this is mutable axis. We started something with Aries. Think about the Michael Jackson, got to be starting something. We're moving from the got to be starting something. We started. Lots of fights. Necessary fights. Just fights even. Okay? We moved from the image of what the world to, well, if the devil is doing that to awaken the people, now people are awakening. And we move to the right fight. And then we have to really change for our worldview. We have to accommodate for our worldview. And we have to let go of trying to change our sense of faith and optimism, or even to practice our religion for thinking, okay, I'm going to put that on the altar, or I'm going to read that. And so for some people, it can be even through, what happened before Abrahamic religions. It's kind of like what's happening today. Lots of refugees everywhere, so people were disconnected from their monasteries, and they had the view. Even let's go before the World War. If you think about Protestants and the Christianity, and even Judaism, okay, the Abrahamic religions, basically people went about. There were many refugees, so they couldn't use the old monasteries, the old altars, the old this, the old that. They had to grow a view of spirituality where the connection with the divine is, okay, for some more immediate, for some through guru, so for some it supported actually hierarchy, but for some, if you think about Kantian Christianity, that led to a person having connection with God independent of the priest or the pastor, because they didn't have, for the pleasure of a lot of refugees, then you can bring in different views on Christianity. And come to, I think, Kant was Protestant? I think not. Was he? I don't remember. Okay, like the denomination's completely forgotten. I knew a little bit because of Kant actually, but completely forgotten. Okay, and I think he was affected by Maimonides, and again, Maimonides was in exile. So whether it's Islam or Sufi religion or all the religions, okay, for all of them, they are transforming, they are changing, because we cannot do away with not looking at it. Even if, for example, it can mean some people will be atheistic, especially with Saturn in Pisces. Some people can grow either very orthodox or very atheistic as well. Because they say, hey, no, there really is no God that cannot justify these children being sacrificed. And if God allows for such choice, then how? Okay, it's a real conversation. It's a real conversation that people have, and some people would see that and say, no way I can justify that, okay, with God. For other people, if it's like my grandfather who escaped the ghetto, then he would read Psalm every day, you know. And when I tried to read Psalm, I was like, what's all this rape and slaughter and what's this genocide? Okay, what's going on there? And I remember particularly I had a headache, and then my mom said read Psalm. It was in Greece, and it was because of the wind. I was sensitive to the wind, so I opened the book, and it written about skulls that are crushed. And you see how I would grow to say, okay, I guess God is telling me this book is not for me. Another person would read another verse. And then for the messages with God, they're going to resonate. Or when I read in Christianity, when I read God is going to bless you in the people who talk behind your back, that God is going to bless you in their faces. Okay, I say, that's nice. So I will like that. But if I saw, other things in the Bible, if it even Christian Bibles, then never say, it's not for me. So now we get to not be able to escape this reintroduction to the worldview, religion, guru and guruism, views on children, trees as well. I've been looking at, when I was a child, I really loved houses made of trees. Now I think I revise my worldview to see, yes, houses with trees, but not to cut the trees because they're living beings. And the thing, and now I have my own dissonance around that. And then, of course, Jupiter is in Gemini, so I would see a beautiful view of a house made of entirely of wood, and the great architecture is so cozy and so this, and I'm like, damn. It's kind of like the vegan that has to abandon the steak at least for a while and see what is going on. Okay, rethink the architecture. So while this whole thing is happening, while everybody is going to either lose or regain their religion, and it's not, and it really is about the connection. Okay, it really is about the connection. The practice, the way we practice religion, is going to dramatically change. My prediction is that it's going to be more towards something that is less material. We're gonna have kind of like another Jesus, because some people say that it's the time of the Antichrist right now because Saturn, but kind of like, what was the complaint of Jesus about the particular people that sat in front of, I think it's the Wailing Wall. They had their businesses and so on, and Jesus was mad. It was like, oh, it cannot be that you make business out of religion. That was later complained about church. The church is taking money for blessings, but you have to pay. If not, you will not be blessed, and so on. Whereas, and even when I do astrological talisman, I always say, okay, and Christopher Warnock also is very much emphasizing this point. Yes, you can buy the talisman, but the talisman is like a door that just strengthens your connection. But it's not like, you don't need to build a connection with the God Think about the good friend where you buy them flowers and you buy them this and you buy them that, and you do something in their image. It's kind of, but it's not replacing of turning. Even right now, okay, sometimes I don't have necessarily talismans on me or something like that, but I think about whether it's the planets or the stars and so on. So we're going to be moving towards that place where we are reminded that status does not make us more or less connected to God, okay? And the reason we're moving there is, again, for just like with Abrahamic religions, what God says to Abraham back then, not even Abraham, and it says, take your only child, put it, and then for the sacrifice. And Abraham does this because that would be how deities would communicate. And the God says, no, now I see that you believe me, you don't have to actually kill a child. Then Abraham says, animal, or first something in my body. And God said, what the fuck do you need that for? And eventually they settle on a piece of the penis. Wait, it's a piece of the penis, I mean, come on. Where God does not want it, but he agrees because he understands that humanity is not yet enlightened to believe that they actually made connection with God when they didn't inflict upon themselves some sort of suffering. Then the Christian God would come and say, even though I ain't worthy, the Lord still loves me, okay? And now as Venusian, I criticize that because I say, well, why would you not be worthy? But back then, it's trying to bring enlightenment to humanity, not enlightenment of the Luciferian, but enlightenment to humanity, that you are loved. Especially if you think, if you don't grow with love, you commit many sins, right? Okay, you have to steal food, you have to this, you don't believe that you're going to get anything, you have to commit crime to do stuff. But if you know you're loved, then you have leverage to ask and you shall receive, if you indeed receive, okay? Otherwise, you wonder why me? What's wrong with me? What's happening with me? And you turn to God. Maybe he has an answer, maybe he doesn't have an answer. But we've come a long way from having to inflict, to sacrifice of our own people, or inflict bodily damage, okay, to bathing in the water, which basically baptism is bathing in the water, is baptizing someone in the water. And not that I'm transferring people to Christianity, unfortunately. We really don't have anything that actually 100% works for humanity. You're going to have to find your own religion, and religion is not what it says it is, okay? The satanic ritual abuse of the satanic church is in par with the Vatican. But the thing is that we've come a long way with the way we practice religion, from suffering for the God to purifying, to bathing in clear water. Okay, to be reminded that we're loved. It's completely different. Or we've come a long way from the human blood sacrifice to growing hibiscus, growing a flower and then making tea of this flower. Is the color red, is the color of life, and it satisfies, this is African teaching from African shaman, it satisfies for the gods that needed blood sacrifice in the past. So whether you do it through Abrahamic religions or whether you do it through indigenous religions and spiritual practices, we are going from the practical, the herb, the incantation, and so on, to the idea, the intention, that which we cannot always put into words, that which is more abstract, the dream, the vision. People are going to have prophetic dreams. Many people are going to have prophetic dreams. People are going to have perhaps renewed sense of faith in life. We still have Saturn in Pisces for the most of it. So it's going to be both prophetic dreams, but also run into anti-ultra. Okay? Or a renewed sense of faith in life, but both kind of like a deep reality check to that sense of faith. Okay, there's the limitation of expansion, the limit to how much we can expand, and Saturn allows us to meet those, to see what those limits really are, so that we can grow within our means And it's a great time to grow forest because Saturn is ruling of agriculture and Jupiter is ruling of trees. And if you do the type of forestry where we bring reforestation, because Pluto is in the sign of Saturn still, then a lot of good things happen. Okay, a lot of pollution comes out of the soil, but the deep waters, and then you learn about the monasteries that are underneath the ground, which was my process. Okay, doing the half moons and then kaboom. Okay, that's literally moving energy around. Then Jupiter will ingress into Cancer. We also go away from trickery to actually having to address things. Okay. If in the past, for example, with the government, we dealt through trickery or we dealt through, think about Donald Trump and his tax evasion tactics. Okay. Now we might not be able to do that anymore, and people will begin to actually rebel the government, say we don't pay taxes because when I'm homeless, then I have to take this drug or that drug to receive home. And now if I don't get along, then all you want to do is to take away my money, to take away my sanity, to take away my rights, to take away everything from me, and not even let me allow to grow business. Okay? But then it's going to be the question, okay, what about the disabled? What about those who cannot work? What about those things? We're going to have to apply for what is our answer to this question. Because it's like, okay, go to church. We saw the church also partakes in abuse of those who are helpless, okay? We're genuinely helpless, okay? If the person genuinely not able to do, and we're also moving away from accommodating for the disabled by making the work environment more accessible to people with extrasensory perception, which has been oversensitivity, what people call it high sensitivity, or to disabled, just those things that we would do to accommodate, to bring people back into the working market. And we remember that, hey, these people never paid too much, were never paid too much, but hey, they need a fucking vacation. And then Saturn comes and limit that. So some people, yes, they can go out, they can, or we can talk about the accessibility to that with dignity. Okay, there's going to be a lot more extremists in the ground or in the waters very soon, because people are pushed to a place where the facilitation of their well-being or the accommodation for them in society, both in working sector or in nursing homes or all kinds of hospitals, all kinds of things that Virgo implies, has been restricted. So some people might have gone out and say, okay, when I don't rely on that and that and that and that and that, and I rely on the herbs, on the this, on the that, and maybe I can get healthy, but then can't grow this herb, can't grow that herb, because something is moving from a different notion of how we care for that which is the disabled or the helpless, and so on and so forth. All people can become disabled in the process, unfortunately. And so if in the past it was a form of trickery, okay, you want to call me cuckoo, call me cuckoo, okay, fine, call me cuckoo. But what helps my cuckoo-ness is this herb and not your poison. Call me cuckoo. You don't want to give me a job that I can work? Call me cuckoo. Okay. Then you want to pay for me to not work? Okay. Then, but what helps me is this herb, but not your poison. Or then you tell me go to work where you don't allow me to grow, to genuinely do what I need to do to grow. Okay. Then either you allow me to die with dignity, or it's going to be doing everything, every trick in the book to change, for the worldviews to be more accommodating. So think about people who are disabled physically, may grow mental abilities. Okay, there's all these things where people just try to find a way that accommodates for their being in the world. And Jupiter, it wants to expand. Saturn wants to restrict and Jupiter wants to expand. So one good idea is to grow a forest. If you grow something Saturnian, otherwise you will grow debt or death, okay? And how do you grow a forest? You move the soil around. You don't even have to plant, you move the soil around. And that's Virgo. So then Jupiter goes into Cancer. Cancer is our food, our fertility, our caring. And if I think about the half moons that I did in the backyard, that lifted up everything from under, everything that could keep me from growing bay tree leaves, that would purify the deep waters, all the pollution is coming out in spirit and in matter, okay? I said what I said, Brussels, I said what I said, okay? So, but that thing comes out, and that was all beginning with the half moon, putting half moon into the soil, digging in. So the moon and Jupiter exalts in the sign of the moon because the temperature is compatible. The moon holds the temperature for hope to grow, for the seed of life to grow, for optimism to grow. Moon is a manifesting. So if we put Jupiter in the sign of the moon, then you get big fertility going on, okay? There's something fertile is growing. And so that will, after the refining phase that we're doing, the back and forth, and we have some time because Jupiter's just began its retrograde motions. That's 6 months, so we're going into 2025, then back 6 months, and towards the end of the year, okay, we're gonna have Jupiter in Cancer together with Venus and the moon, and everybody makes a talisman and plans to have babies on this date and so on. But it's going to square Saturn, so yes, I remind you. The thing is that now we are going to be fertilizing for our new ideas. First we do the refinement, okay? And that was me 6 months talking about Al Gol and how we should abolish expandable children. And people like, are they dumb or are they dumb? It's like, well, no, I'm not dumb. I'm asking Al Gol to abolish expandable children. But guess what? It works. So in Hebrew we said, Mashaya lochech. Okay, this is what I had to prove. If I ask for your God to abolish expandable children, that you sacrifice for this God, and your God tells me for all where the children are, all the things that why it's done, all how it's done, all how it's not needed, all what could do instead of that, and then show me the monastery where I see the face of this God. It was like, yeah, but why didn't you tell me that they do this to that? Yeah, well, I forgot to mention that they sacrifice these children for me, and I don't need that. Well, can we stop that? Yeah, of course. I mean, we could do housing first, believe in the person, and we have to express it in the ultra, and then all global thing that they want to enslave humanity, and then all these things. But if they're actually going to do that, I mean, why not? So that actually works. Jupiter Gemini is, that actually works. That actually works. That actually works. That actually works. And Jupiter Gemini is is big humor. We get the chance to laugh at ourselves, laugh at our beliefs. It's the fine age of satire. Okay? We get to speak about religion more freely because we're going to be fighting about this soon. Now is the time to say King David was a rapist. His kingdom eventually, those kind of kingdoms eventually ended in exile. Circumcision was something that God tried to insist not to do, and we can't blame God for it. Nowhere in Christianity should you crucify people, torture them, and kill them. or children. Muhammad intended that every woman is good enough to be wed, because the Jews said the widow not, and the disabled not, and the this tribe not. And Muhammad said, all of them you can marry, all of them, just make sure you provide for them. Okay? That was the intention, no child weddings. No child weddings. But then Muhammad himself waited for Aisha to turn from 6 to 9, I get that meme. Okay. Now is the time to say that, because we're going to be fighting about religion soon. We're going to be fighting about it. So now is the time to abolish child trafficking. Now is the time to talk about, respect and dignity. Now is the time to remind ourselves that willing consent is that which keeps her tasty. And if you like him and not her, is absolutely okay. Still, willing consent will keep the fluid good. That's good old teaching. Very simple. Okay, Libra is going to bring in this and that, and Venus Taurus is kind of like, you just test yourself, folks. You need good food, you need good rest. You need to do something you're actually passionate about, so don't destroy yourself at work. And you need to be attuned with your yes, no, and maybe, and then you're tasty. And that's the secret. Okay. Then I'm Venus in Taurus without saying I'm Venus in Taurus. Yeah. But the Libra is responsible for that move of you sexually harassed me because my boobs are out, and my boobs are out because I didn't find a bra that actually support them. Good, I'm going to go and buy a bra that costs half the rent. Jacuba, prima donna. It's going to hold my breast for a while and then I have to take it off. But no, I look dignified. No, I respect myself, yeah. That's Libra. That's Venus Libra. That's the move of Venus Libra. Okay, or Lilith in Libra. Venus Taurus is like, every time, did I say it? Every time we have anything in Libra, what do we have? The argument, is it piss or is it squared? Okay? But it might go like the science says and this says and that says, like, freaking taste it. If you drink a lot of water, yeah, that can be piss too. But other than that, freaking taste yourself. Okay, that's Taurus. Rahu is still closer to Taurus. But Libra still assists to us to balance things in the way we're like, you say it's because of my clothing, of what I wear. Okay, let's buy new clothes. Instead of the rent, instead of the bus that I was supposed to arrive to work, or pay me more, I will buy clothing. Good for work. This is Libra. Libra is very important. So, Jupiter Cancer, back to this Jupiter Cancer, it's going to grow for our new beliefs. Now we're still, I believe this, I believe that, we change in our beliefs. We practice our beliefs. We actually have to practice our beliefs and then we see, well, maybe this was wrong or maybe that was wrong. We accommodate and we change and we shift. Then it shifts into Cancer. We can actually fertilize something. We can grow something with our new worldview. We can grow our new worldview. Now it brings in creation, it brings in fruits, it brings in maybe actual forests growing. It brings in, for some of you, children, for many of you, children. It brings in a type of care that is actually supportive of children. Perhaps we never had that. And so, although this Jupiter will be ruling Saturn, still, it maybe brings in more tolerance, okay, as well. Population growth. It is the fertile sign, okay? It's Jupiter. This Jupiter is basically seed in the womb. It's a population growth, okay? Now, we have to be cautious for not to grow tumors, so we're going to be extra. We're changing our worldview, then we are going to change our worldview about nutrition. If you think about emotional eating and how kind of we addressed dieting, if Jupiter Gemini is how we address budgeting, and then we address for the worldview. Okay, I was sitting in the train. It's the greatest Jupiter Gemini. I was sitting in the train, two men next to me, each of them not more than 25. And so one was saying I spend what would be equivalent of $300, 3,000 euros or $3,000 for person, 3,000 shekels. But I'm living with my parents. This is a lot. And I said, well, it's not that a lot. I mean, we know that if you want to choose life, then for some people that means weed. For me, it's essential oils, which cost pretty much the same. And that's costly. And he said, well, you know what? It's true. The other guy, with his friend, he says, well, for me, it's medical already. And the guy's less than 25. This is Jupiter Gemini. If we address budgeting from a different point of view, and what was my cunning, my trickery? It's true. Herbs. Let's just talk about the fact that you need to smoke a joint to not unalive yourself every other day for what you've seen, for the bodies that you've seen, for the things that you've heard, for the many people that you lost. And we're on the Israeli side. Imagine the Palestinians. Okay? So, but that thing you cannot say. So now you're spending too much, even though you're living with your parents. You're responsible. Okay? This is Jupiter Gemini. It changes for the way we see budget. When we include that, then we can advocate, okay, Mercury for that. Jupiter Cancer is going to do the same thing, but with eating. If you are not absorbing food correctly, okay, 12 years before 2025, that would be 2013. That was exactly a year where I began to look, and I ran into someone that told me, my darling, if you're feeling you eat too much, it's because you are malnourished. You need to eat enough fruits, enough greens, enough, okay, if they were super, into only fruits and greens, and I tried that for a while. It's nice that I tried that, but it's nice that I grew out of that. But this is where you understand that being obese is being malnourished. Okay, so we're going to have another such change when we think about the connection with emotional eating, with fertility and eating. What food is good for fertility? For example, I mentioned about being tasty, okay, for both men and women. You need your pineapple and lychee, okay? You need to reduce your processed food. Now, if you are emotionally okay, you have access to that. You need to be able to celebrate your true sexuality. If people try to rape people in order to turn them to sexpionage, that's why they rape people. For most cases, this is the case. They try to control people or to turn them into sexpionage. It's not even crime of hatred. It's just to control people, to turn them to slaves. Okay? Then you can eat all your pineapple and lychee, but if you cannot connect with your fertile energy in correct way, for your heart to be connected and so on. I have some infiltration of the Mason, because there was a Mason watching me. Now they're writing a lot about everything, about sexuality, about this, about that. It just happened. I didn't do anything bad. So the thing is that if you can reconnect with yourself and appreciate, okay, for this energy, for that energy, then now the things that you eat you are absorbed better. And then if there are no toxins in your soil, okay, then you can actually get to eat food that is nourishing for you. And even some people, they have obesity, then they cook and they like cooking. They like the concern, they like cooking. You see, they reconnect with their own passion as they're cooking. The side of them is more sexy. And now, of course, they will not be overly obese, because they reconnect with their passion and they can feel receptive to join and do something that they like. So sometimes solution would be to actually get to cook, to actually create, moon something. Because Jupi Cancer can be the sweet tooth. Okay? Oh, it will be okay, it can be here, it can be there. Yeah, but this also has its limitations. So we definitely are going to be changing for our view on nutrition and how to grow food that is actually nourishing. We had something like this and around 2013, yes, maybe 2014 as well. Think about what you did back then, okay? You're going back there, you're bringing some things back, but you're continuing on for this, okay? If I'm going to grow a forest and some of these forests will be edible, and sometimes I'll have to compete with other animals for my food because that happens, okay? You got to deal with what you got to deal with. And then I will see, okay, I noticed that I learned this actually from women who survived incest and sex trafficking. That's very likely sex espionage, but not all of them are even aware of this. And I wasn't aware of this. They began to grow stuff and they began to grow food. And they say something happens to me for when I eat from my own food that I grow. I say, I have to try this, but how will I ever have a place to grow something? And then lo and behold, I would have that place. Okay, now that I'm doing forest, that would be interesting, okay, to eventually eat from that forest. How would it change for the emotional experience, the growing psychological growth, every herb. Right now, all these things happen when I began to grow garlic again. When I grow garlic, the world shifts. I believe a part of how I survived October 7 mentally, didn't go completely berserk, is I grew garlic. And with everything, I've followed for its growth. Because when I'm obsessed with growth. So I followed for its growth. And then that was this powerful rejuvenation. It gives you courage to break through ceiling glasses, just to do things. When I grow garlic, it's one of these herbs for me when I want to ignite rejuvenation, even against the odds, then I grow garlic. And then it was even a problem because then garlic was limited, but I was growing. Okay, it's not like I was selling to anybody, but that's the thing, because something grows here. It's very, very powerful. When I say it, I feel it. So you can reconnect with what you grow or the food that you grow in a different way. If people do not have access to this before, you will have more access to that. Okay, for some of you. And sometimes it can be even because of food scarcity or seed scarcity. We try to take the seed from what we can, so we regrow fruits that were no longer, think about cucumbers. But if you don't have the seed, you can't grow the cucumber. But tomatoes you can still grow. I didn't know the farmers don't own the seeds for their crops. There's just so many things that we're going to learn about the industry of food, our restaurants and nourishment, and things are going to be dramatically changing because Jupiter, I think, will still, I don't know if it will still be ruling Saturn. I think yes, in the beginning. And there was going to be a giant reality check about farming industry, which we absolutely need. We've all been supporting the farmers, and that's fantastic, but they've also been exploiting people. So, yeah, I think Venus hour is done. and then my mama, Moon, prepares food. Moon. Making big noise, because Mars is in the moon sign. But I'm not complaining, of course. So that's going to be another very fertile time. Unfortunately, because Jupiter begins with a square to Saturn as it enters, upon the entering, so it will not be ruling over Saturn, it will be squaring Saturn. Then we're going to have some crisis about this. Very much like 2013, 2014, okay? I went to a dietitian of the HMO, I never needed one, but they were prescribing me after the war some pills, so I went to the dietitian, and the dietitian says you have to eat this. I buy this, and I have no money. And I don't even have enough money to buy for the food. So I was like, what is this social worker telling me problems of why I buy coffee, not buy this, that buy this, too much coffee, too much this is money. I don't have money to buy food. I'm malnourished. And she's like, but it's choice. You can eat, be hungry for 3 weeks. And it's not their problem because they've been constantly hungry. And no doctor evaluated for what the problem is. There are probably a myriad of problems that nobody ever looked into. But it was not trying to be abusive to me. They were just giving me of the same advice that they were giving to themselves, which was so fucking abusive. I have to admit. Okay? Really hope they changed that, because they're mother now. 2 children, I think, maybe 3. But they just didn't find good solutions, and they focused on choice. You said a choice, but you gotta be able to afford food that is good for you, to absorb this food. Because they were going to this doctor, that doctor. But these doctors, but then it would begin another journey where I would try to say, okay, if I don't have money for food, then let's try to eat only this, only that. Let's try to resolve it, okay, in another way. Because if I believe that I should be, if I'm eating well, I will also open opportunities for me to make more money and to, do something with my life. And unfortunately, we're going to have that a little bit again when Jupiter enters Cancer. And again, Jupiter is what is choice. There is always choice. And then Saturn is like, well, not if you can't pay for the food, or not if the food is not growing, or not if the food is poisonous, which is going to be with Neptune. So we definitely learn more about what we need, but we might have a crisis that points us to another type of innovation needed at the food area. And if it's not available, weird shit is just going to happen. Okay? Because it's like when you say, okay, well, I don't have enough of this, so let's try to move from another level of analysis. Okay, like this month, I said, well, what the food that I need to eat to keep my sanity and so on for my teeth is fishes, is this, is that, is greens. But I want to put my money where my mouth is. At least I buy 2 boxes of like sardines or something and some nice greens that I say, even if this the only thing is kind of cementing the step to that, to show where I move the energy that I want to eat good. And I will make pedicure, because pedicure removes the skin from the feet and can change for my steps, path in life. Okay, definitely something's changed when I did that. Okay, I'll be stepping on fertile soil very soon, and well nourished. But this is where I said, okay, if there is such crisis that the food that I need to eat to not go cuckoo is not available, then I will make pedicure to remove the dead skin and say, here's another level of analysis. It's exactly the move needed with Jupiter square. I did it with the sextile. No, it's still squaring with Pisces and Gemini. If you think about, the square is just going to move from to Cancer and Aries. Well, back then, what I need about began to buy crystals. The crystals, not the drugs. And I said, if I don't have enough money for food, let me at least concentrate on something beautiful. And these crystals, at first I didn't think they have too much energy. But then I slept with the malachite and I had weird dreams. And then I removed for the malachite to clean it and I slept well. And I'm like, damn. Or I had rose quartz and I began to feel better. And I'm like, okay, beyond just that's nice things that shift. And I think, oh, this symbolizes this symbolizes that, this symbolizes love, this symbolizes prosperity, this symbolizes that. Then I began to have a crystal stash and learn about each and every crystal, so much so that I will later make money from it, because I could tell people buy the crystals that they choose for something good advice for them. It was actually, they resonated with that. So I invested in something that would later become an income. But then for the correct karma, I bless for the place where the crystals are made and for the people to not have, exploitation around this. So we're going to be trying to remediate. It can be through, indeed, something to do with, rocks or talismans or just something is going to help to shift the energy, okay? Or painting or just something that can assist you to break through. But there is crisis, okay? There is crisis. And when you agree for the crisis to be, then eventually you will grow, because crisis doesn't stay. It evolves to the trine. It evolves forward to some place where both everyone involved understand, like this, it cannot go on. Now we need to accommodate, to remediate, okay, to change what we do. So that's a part of what Jupiter is going to do in Cancer. You might learn about curation for Cancer. You know that if you've been watching my channel, you really have had the fore on most of humanity. So curation for Cancer, what creates Cancer, what this, what that. We're going to have a completely new view, and unfortunately it's through certain crises. Hopefully it's not for people having Cancer, but for example, having access to nourishing food, okay, the crisis around that. People are going to have to fight for the readjustment of what is needed, of what you compromised earlier. Okay, when I went to university, I said, I don't know what will I eat, but I know that I need to study. Otherwise, I feel like some meaning to my life is lost. And then, when I began to deal with that, I said, okay, now I need to, it's unreasonable that I would have to choose between studies and food, especially not when you need to concentrate for your studies, right? So you think about the balance of innovation, the I am, fertility, caring, caregiving, children, all these things are you're going to change your worldview around that. One of the ways before COVID, where I began to look at my own fertility, was not because I wanted to bring children. I said I want to have, whether I bring or not bring in children, would be out of choice and not because of limitation. So think about this Saturn, Jupiter, and Jupiter was in Saturn sign, I believe, before COVID, meeting Saturn and Pluto. And then I learned about everything, okay? I learned about, I received a lot of channelings, but I also learned practicalities. Okay? We really don't gynecology is mostly Dr. Mengele. And that's something that, okay, as a person who bifurcated to avoid intimacy for after like violation of boundaries and so, then that was not something I was so exposed to. And so that's what we have for gynecology. We don't really have a science. And you think, okay, that's because women. No. For your heart disease, you're given antipsychotics. If you survived heart attack, you're given antipsychotics. You go to treat cancer, you treat it with torture. The cure for cancers. I'm not talking about herbs even necessarily. I'm talking about cures, conventional cures for cancers. The person's terminally ill, having remission, then budget stops, and then few people do torture. We go through torture, and then given antipsychotics so that it wouldn't convulse for this torture out of the body. That's the role of the antipsychotic, so you will not vomit. Okay? Remember this conversation in 2025. And then people learn about the role of the food, accessibility to food, okay? All these things that they were either in the back of the mind or we were busy fighting other fights. Now we're going to be fighting this fight. So those relationals, okay, for the relational trauma, relational patterns, all these things, inner child, all these Jupiterian things, we're going to have this crisis with Saturn limiting for our sovereignty and for our innovation and for our ability to set boundary. Okay, it's also the natural square between Aries, the I am, and Cancer, the caregiving. Because let's say mother, he feels the child, or even parents or caregiver, whatever, they feel for the person that they care as if it's themselves, but that other person also has sovereignty, and that can make it very challenging for the caregiver or the kind of like the Cancerian in the equation to deal with that. Because you don't feel like the boundaries are there, but they are there and you have to respect them. Okay? And then there is also the I am. If you want to respect the boundary, you set yourself apart, and then you feel that's like, oh, where's the containment for the I am? What happened to the water that holds? It runs dry. Why? Because you popped the balloon. Okay? Now Mars is in Cancer, preparing us for the initiation of the square. Mars is square in Aries right now, which is ruling Aries and square in Aries. And this is like where everybody say, if you think about, remember the satire that I'm going to say this about tomorrow? Everybody's going to say, you're Hitler, you're Hitler, you're Hitler, you're Hitler. Okay, it's not my skit. It's Zeusa, I think it was. Because yes, I do have skits. But the thing is that we're going to be kind of getting to this point where everybody's saying, I'm the marginalized, but I'm the marginalized, but I'm the marginalized, but now you marginalize me. And we move the marginalized around so that we can accommodate, and it's a square, okay, of caring for everybody. Because the feeling of being marginalized is horrid, and they're going to speak up, and then something else happens, okay? And Cancer wants safety, nourishment. Aries wants to be who they are. So if who you are makes people feel unsafe, this is where the thing, for sometimes you feel like you have to make people feel unsafe to be who you are. Okay? Like if they feel safe only when I'm not who I am, then this is a problem. And this is where we get people to be marginalized. And now the marginalized is moving around, that everybody says, but I am the Aries in the equation. Okay, if you think about a whole group of people, and everybody thinks they're not invited, and everybody has a point, everybody right. So this is where, if you kind of you think about the times where you tell a story and the story depicts, well, that person, they weren't invited to the party. Then they said, I'm going to burn the whole village. And then everybody said, and they're sure that that person is them. That is the square we are having right now with Mars in Cancer. Then Jupiter is going to enter the equation. It's just going to increase that. Other than that, Jupiter in Cancer is exalted. It's being optimistic about having nourishment. It's being optimistic about being a good mom, or being a good caregiver. It's being optimistic about the size of your breasts. It's being optimistic about your fertility. It's growing something, hopefully with love. Optimistic about the fact that you can grow. Optimistic about your dreams. It's having containment to your dreams. Having containment. When things go wrong, then the moon is accommodating. It's like, yes, but look at everything that went right. Look at everything that was correct here. Look at everything that still nourishes you here. Look, okay? Perspective. Okay, grow a perspective. But then sometimes this has limitations where you do need something new, where you do need to sever ties, where you do need to change the shift, where you actually don't have enough money for food, and that's why you're malnourished, okay? Even though you made very good choices with your life, okay, relative to where you could have gone. And we're just going to go through this again, but this time with Neptune in Aries, with Saturn in Aries. So this is not the whole 2025. I talked about the things that people are afraid of in 2025. We still have the Mars going back and forth between Cancer and Leo, opposing Pluto. That will, in just 3 days, Pluto will ingress into Aquarius for good. Only 3 days. That's it. This is all we have from Capricorn. We have 3 days. Most of us are either exhausted or uplifted, or I don't know. And that is literally a feather. Oh, it's not a feather. Oh, damn. And that Mars will continue to accompany us with its opposition, its direct opposition to Pluto. Okay, one of the most volatile is such a nice word. It's a laundry word for violent, explosive combustions that we have every once to a half year. We have them. So now we're going to be having this with Mars going retrograde back and forth. That's something we had, I think, in 2007, 2009, last time. And it was another Lebanon war, I think. No? Or was some other missiles going? That's going to happen until spring. And people have good reasons to explode over it. It's going to be the spring of nations, but it is a winter. And Pluto is in 3 days going to Aquarius, Neptune and Saturn to Aries, and Uranus to Gemini, all in the same year. So this is why you hear people say, many of you will not make it past 2025 and so on and so forth. Here's a couple of big giants ingressing somewhere. Energy is definitely shifting, but for some of you that might be the reason you will make it to 2025, because you wouldn't make it if things were the same. For some of you, this is going to be the reason you will make it to 2025. So what people are afraid of is they're afraid of change, but the change is also necessary. And for many of you, the reason you will make it past 2025 is because of all of these changes that are shifting in your life, whether it's your thought, the fights you pick to fight. I can say that the fact that I chose to supposedly pick the fight of tending to expandable children. Now, but everybody asks, what would you do in the Second World War? It's like, I think I'm in a pretty fair place. Both in terms of spirituality, sense of meaning and purpose, and actually addressing the issue. I think I'm in a pretty fair place. Growing trees, growing forests to the best of my ability. I think it's just something that I would look back and say, oh, that's good that I tended to that. It's maybe about a lot of struggle and fear and so on, but yes, of all the things that we needed to tend to, that one definitely needed to be tended to. So yes, for some of you, it is going to be the reason you will, and this is, and that, in that Jupiterian perspective, I want to leave you with that. The changes that are happening in 2025, for many of us, it's one of the reasons that we will make it to 2025. Those changes needed to happen. Even if they unnerve us, even if they shock us, those things, they needed to change. And how many things in your life you hold right now, you say, that thing has to change for good. Okay? That thing has to change for good. Uranus on Beta per se. You know how many divorces we are having right now? And those divorces have to do with Beta per se story. You say that thing has to change for good. Uranus, planet of divorce, on one of the most revered planetary beings. Okay? In this one, you're not divorced. Uranus divorce pretty much usually liberates something. You're gonna maybe have a heated affair, and then you find out that you want to be a painter and sit on the mountain. Okay, and your wife and children is kind of like, you're gonna have to compensate me financially for that, but go ahead. Okay? And even she knows it's not about that young fairy. Sometimes that young fairy, someone's older than her, or looking different, or a man, or, you know, and it's not, okay? It's just that person liberates something in you, and it's not about the affair, it's about what needs to be addressed, okay? And sometimes it can be something like, you try to get away, you try to close it with, oh, that they were, you know, that was a lay, that was a this, that was a that was a that. Mm-hmm. And then you have for big problems, okay? They're not willing to pay the rent. Why? Well, because they say I said something. Did you say that? I don't have active memory. I'm not talking about him, okay? If you know that. But oh my God, that came out worse than I wanted it to. Anyway, I'm not talking, it's just like I took one sentence that somebody said and put it in another situation. So to clarify everybody's name, I was not speaking about Mark Rutte. What was it that you say? Well, that I asked you to see if it's go home. You guys sleep together. Oh yeah, it was, no, we never slept together. I didn't want to sleep together. That's the whole thing. That's why I said, we're not going to get you. The person asked me that to try to get me to sleep with them for rent. He's not going to pay the rent. Okay? Then the wife goes like, you did what? Okay? Then you try to reframe them. Well, housing first cures schizophrenia. Housing first and believing the person cures schizophrenia. So scientifically, I'm not making fun. And anyway, I like the house, and I got nothing. Like I ain't got nothing here. Like I like the house, and everything is okay. I don't know what you asked me this for. I just wanted to make sure that you're not trying to do any thing like that. That's a very different type of divorce than you had an affair and you decided you want to be a painter. Okay? The Beta per se divorces are ouchies, but they also come to liberate something that if we agree to change, if we don't, we're going to have to change it anyway or die, but if we agree to change about ourselves, we get it. For example, the fact that I was too tired for fighting to have my own housing, okay, built into such crisis that now it exploded gigantically. And that has to change for good. Okay? And I also know that Uranus is going to go into my 4th house, so it's not like now I can buy a property and that's it. We're in a world war. This is why the divorces and the separations and the exiles, okay, that the people have right now are very, very ouchy. They are saving us in a way from an even grander Holocaust, because anybody that kept with the view that she is a traitor, she would go with this and that, she would this, she would that, is like, well, if she is, it's because you raped this person and you tortured this person, you built personalities in this person because you wanted to use them as espionage to enslave humanity. Uranus, electric shock. That exposed the whole fucking thing. This is Uranus on Beta per se. It blows up the whole system because it has to change for good. Then it's going to ingress into Gemini, Mitsenna. Uranus is going to meet Sedna. Then everybody that still holds the story that Sedna was not accommodated for because she was narcissistic, she didn't want this man or that man or this man or that man. It's like, where are all my anti-Muslims? I'm not anti-Muslim, but where are all my anti-Muslims? Like, Muhammad was waiting for young Aisha to turn from 6 to 9. Where my khitras at? Okay? You can't fool them because they are the expendable children that didn't manage to kill. Whatever you say about them. So, we're gonna abolish for expendable children. And child weddings. And grapes. Rapes. Grapes, not rapes. My Grapes, not rapes was so successful. I had so many grapes, like finding grapes everywhere. You just put it next to a talisman. I said, grapes, not rapes. That's it. So, you understand some things have to change for good. If people still hold a view that Sedna is this narcissistic child that didn't want to marry anyone, okay, like they're gonna be invaded. Israel was invaded. Humans, ritual, human sacrifice done on the land of people, horrors. That was Sedna Gemini. COVID was Sedna meeting Beta per se. Okay? That was not nice. We gotta accommodate for Sedna, that's what I'm saying. So same with Beta per se. Okay, if you've been holding view that she was this traitor or a seductress or this or that, it's gonna fly out the window. It's gonna fly out the window from the tenant that you took a loan to buy a property to rent to. Okay? But then, if you didn't know that this child sacrifice was made in the name of Beta per se, or the snake goddess, then like me, okay, you're gonna find out. Oh, that's the person, that's the god that they sacrificed to all these people, all these children too. Well, don't sacrifice children, that's the first thing. And then, housing first, believe the person, curate schizophrenia, allow person to say yes, no, maybe, as they wish, without full willing consent. That way you won't have the child assassins that are espionage, that are, as Anneke Lucas was programming, sending urges into people to program them. Then you won't have that. Yes, but you have to abolish expandable children practice. But you have to believe victims of when they tell for the testimonial that and that happened, because these children are still raped. This is what this dumb fuckery MK Ultra thing does. And now you can say MK Ultra, it is everywhere. It is as ancient as these monasteries. People say 9 millennia pedophilia cult. That's what I mean. But the problem is not, the issue is beyond pedophilia. It is that programming. And for those of you who have been exposed to that, wow. That's the child assassins. So same thing Uranus does with Algol. It's going to be doing with Sedna. Sedna is even, I don't know if she's even more, I think she's even more ancient because she's Inuit goddess. Anybody that holds the view that Sedna was just, no, but I don't like this, but I don't like that, but you just don't want to be raped. If we can't accommodate for that, then of course food, we deplete the water, no fish grow, no food grows, famine, wars, occupation, apartheid, and whatever you want to call it in modern times, colonialism, genocide, democide, find whatever word. then those are the things that are happening. And that shit happens on my Chiron. That's what's up. So, did you know, I heard eucalyptus oil contains the cyanide, but you have to fill a whole can of it in order to die. And drink it like a can of it. Somebody once purposefully did that, and they died from liver failure. But I think this is a way. Yes, if you just have one drop, which is allowed in a spoonful of oil or honey, then you feel the taste. Then a can of it is not viable. But somebody did do that, and they did have liver failure. By the way, liver, Chinese medicine, is anger. It's commander of the army, which is the internal organs, and it is anger, the boundaries that we set. Also for the pyramidal, extrapyramidal, the antipsychotics, they hurt the liver first. Was the person angry? They need to set a boundary that's respected, and they're not angry, and don't become depressed or manic depressive. Okay, manic having the excess to think about the adrenaline that you would move a mountain. That's the manic phase. The elated phase will try to kick that out of your life, and then the depressive phase, the depleted phase, the helplessness phase that didn't work again. Then you try again. That is what people call manic depressive, a depression. So where you try to say no, but you know no, not respected. You don't even have hope for no to be respected. You become depressed, depleted. People in China, young people, have nursing homes because they're depleted from all the intense requirements on them. Okay, then this is anger. And for anger, it's not about anger management or don't be angry or change your perspective. It is for what boundaries they need to be set and for these boundaries to be respected. This is anger. That's why we get angry. When you do your anger, you do your Mars. Mars is also you move around, so you get rejuvenated. If you are allowed to move, then you won't get so angry because you will get ideas. And then you can be more Venusian, diplomatic, and so on. Don't kill everybody. Don't shoot everybody. Okay? And Mars, so when you do your Mars, even if you're a woman, you want relationship to be equal, you do your Mars, you do your own Mars, then suddenly when man begins to be angry, you're not afraid of them to be violent towards you or this or this. You begin to be attracted because, it's part of like our passion. We stand up for ourselves and so begin to be sexy. Okay, I'm not talking about in an abusive way. It's just like you can begin to enjoy to like to see your man. And even if he gets angry, you find it sexy because he stands up for what's right for him. I'm not afraid he's going to murder you or something like that just because, he's angry. And then that happens. But then for that person have to have the leverage where the boundaries are generally respected, and every now and then maybe they have to set boundary, have to say no to something, or they get angry at something, but they fight for it, and it's not something that is like, North Korea. If it's a North Korea, everybody's just going to get depressed and unattracted, and that's what they try to do, to erase, sexual polarity in that way. I think we even delved a little bit into 2025, and I hope I gave you some optimistic idea for why many of you actually will make it to 2025, because so many things that need to change for good are changing for good. And to tell you that I'm super excited towards Uranus ingress into my Sedna with Chiron in it, to my Chiron with Sedna in it. No, but if I make it, if I don't make it alive, then maybe I've crossed over and I'm well. If I do make it alive, then definitely a lot of things that needed to be liberated and to heal my Chiron are going to be there. and keep calm and abolish expendable children. So since the Inuit. See you in another video. Bye bye.